Yo, what is up, Madden Elite? I hope everybody has had a great week. Those of you who turned in for our Tuesday night commentary stream this past weekend, where Jumper and Chino collided, thank you so much. We had a great turnout for that. I'm super appreciative of that. If you missed that game, you missed a wild game, right? You missed a wild game. Before the game went live, right? Bread had made posts about it that day, comments about it that day, that we would be in for a wild game full of a ton of questionable play calls. And that is exactly what we got. Down to the very end of that game, questionable play calls. Um, the game was an excellent game, very fun game to commentate. Going into it, I didn't know anything about Chino, didn't know what to expect from him. I'm quite familiar with Jumper, so going into it by proxy, I've got a lot of faith and confidence in Jumper, so I went with Jumper. And so far, in our Tuesday night commentary streams that we've been doing, I am 0 for 2, right? So maybe if I pick a guy to win, it's not a good thing for you. Maybe, I don't know. Or like week one, right? South let me down, and then this past week with Jumper let me down. So maybe me picking a guy for them to win is me like cursing them, or maybe I'm just picking the wrong guys and these guys actually suck and they're trash. I mean, maybe that's a thing. Who knows? I don't know. You be the judge. Looking forward though to this coming Tuesday. We're gonna make the right call. We're gonna make the right call. We're gonna put a W in that slate of things, and we'll be 1 for 2. Looking at the Jumper versus Chino game though, going into it on paper they look pretty evenly matched up. On paper, neither of the two guys, like when you looked at their stats, like neither of them were doing anything like absolutely spectacular, right? They were just kind of coasting. In the mix of that, like on paper, like none of their stats really stick out. There was one thing though that I think we should have took notice to, like going into it, as far as our expectation of what we should expect. Actually, two things. One is a serious thing. The other is maybe not serious, but serious all at the same time, which opens another can of worms, right? But we'll get to that, right? So the first saying that really kind of set the bar of what we should have been expecting going into that game. Going into that game, according to Neon Sports, Jumper had the number 2 ranked defense or number 2 ranked offense in the league, while Chino, I believe, had the number 4 ranked defense in the league. So, like on paper, neither two guys did anything spectacular. They were both sitting at 1-2 on the season, and they come in Jumper with this high-powered offense, Chino with this high-powered defense, and like going into it, the narrative is what's going to win, the offense or the defense. Once we got into the game, though, it was very apparent that both of these guys were run-heavy teams, which they both, their offense, the way their offense like kind of unfolded, they were both run heavy offenses, run heavy teams. Jumper though, there's a huge question mark, a huge question mark about Jumper, a huge question mark of concern about Jumper. And after the game, Jumper had a lot of complaints to kind of levy against Chino. One of his complaints that he levied against Chino was the fact that Chino's running back was his leading receiver, which according to the rules, I guess, is a no-go, right? So Chino, his running back was his leading receiver. This was one of Jumper's multiple complaints that he levied against Chino in the aftermath of the game. Um, However, if we flip gears and we look at Jumper, right? If we look at Jumper on paper, right? On paper, he had a wide receiver as his leading receiver. However, as like number 2, number 3, number 4 receiver, they were all running backs and tight ends. And then his number 5 and number 6 receiver was a receiver, and then he rounded out with another running back, getting some love. I've not looked at stats since the game. Let's flip over though to my Madden and take a look at how Jumper's stats have evolved since that game. So we'll go down to the receiving stats down here. And Okay, there we are. So we got his receiving stats here. Let's see, and it's standing still about the same, right? Like, look at this. Receiving wise, let me get a pen and paper real quick so we can actually tally these up. So pen and paper here. Um, a wide receiver, Tony, is his number one number one receiver with 443 yards. Though the question is, what does it mean to really be the number one receiver, right? Because Tony has 443 yards. However, Hunter Henry has more receptions. Let's start by looking at receptions, though. Let's start by looking at receptions. So Tony has 23 receptions. His next his next receiver with the most receptions is Colin Johnson, who has 5 receptions. After Colin Johnson, we have Kendrick Bourne with 4 receptions. After Kendrick Bourne, we've got Demario Douglas with 7, and then DJ Chark with 4. So that's another 11. So altogether, let's see, that's 16, 21. Altogether, Jumper's wide receivers have 44 receptions on the year. Now let's flip gears and look at his tight ends and his running back. So Hunter Henry has 28, the most on his team. Gesicki has 11. Stevenson has 8. Sanders has 7. Elliott has 7. And then Brown has 3. So let's tally this up. That's 10. That's 19, 26, 28, 36 plus 28. Okay, so altogether, Jumper's wide receivers have a total of 44 receptions on the year. Now we flip over and we look at his running backs and his tight ends. His running backs and his tight ends have 64 receptions on the year. So altogether, Jumper's running backs and tight ends have a total of 20 more receptions on the year. So 20 more receptions on the year. Let's look at receiving yards, right? Let's look at receiving yards. And that's a lot of math. I'm not going to do that math on paper. We're going to do that one on a calculator because I'm not. And let's bring the calculator onto screen. We'll do that so we can do the math together. There we go. Let's move it out of the way, move it to there. Okay, so Tony has 443 yards. Johnson has 107. Bourne has 83. Douglas has, wait a minute, did I do that right? Bourne has 83. Yeah, Bourne has 83. Douglas has 63. And then DJ Chark has 59. So I'm doubting the accuracy of my math there. I may have looked at some numbers wrong. Let's redo that real quick. So 443 for Tony. And then Johnson has 107. Bourne has 83. Douglas has 63. And then Chark has 59. Okay. So also something to keep in mind as we kind of break down these stats, wide receivers by proxy are probably going to have more receiving yards, right? So like a reception to a wide receiver, it's going to equate for more than a running back or a tight end. So we're figuring this out all together here on the spot. So I'm not really sure what this is all going to look like. So Hunter Henry has 388. Gesicki has 176. Stevenson has 118. Sanders has 86. Elliott has 71. And Brown has 55. Well, I mean, we tried to give jumper like the benefit of the doubt. We're like, oh, wide receivers by proxy, like a catch to a wide receiver, it equates to more than a running back or a tight end. Receiving yards wise, it looks like the running backs and the tight ends have a significant number of more yards receiving than the wide receivers. Let's subtract the two, so minus 177. So his running backs and his tight ends have a total of 139 more yards receiving. So jumpers, running backs, and his tight ends have 20 more receptions. And receiving yards wise, they have 139 more yards. Cheesy. Is that cheesy? Is that cheesy? Is Jumper's new name moving forward like King Cheese? All right, like is Jumper King Cheese? I think Jumper might be King Cheese, and like what I find like humorous about it all, right? Like after the game, one of the complaints that Jumper levy against Chino was, "This guy's running back is his number one receiver, and that's against the rules." I think like the heart of the role, right? I think the heart of the role that your running back shouldn't be your number one receiver. I think the heart of the role is like your wide receivers should be the ones that get the most love in the receiving game. And as we can see, like if that is the heart of the rule, right? Like originally, right? No, I'm not gonna go there. If the heart of the rule is that your wide receivers should be like your leading targets, I don't think Jumper is adhering to the heart of the rule, right? And I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like we put together, like leagues put together these rules. Like these are our rules. This is like what we believe sim or fair play, whatever you want to refer to it is. And like according to the rules, I mean, Jumper is in adherence. Another one of Jumper's complaints was the playmaker thing, right? So if you were there, you know. If you know, you know, right? And like it was basically an unwritten rule, right? So like Chino was breaking an unwritten rule. Is Jumper in violation of an unwritten rule? I don't know. I don't know. You be the judge, you know. You be the judge. Um, all jokes aside, right? Like, I'm not really joking, you know, but in all seriousness, like I will give like Jumper like proper love here. Like watching Jumper play, it is very apparent he knows exactly what he's doing. Jumper is a very skilled player. He didn't walk away with the win, but it was a good fun game. Good game, good game. If these two guys collide again, I would love to commentate this game once more. Um, but yeah, let's kind of let's take a moment though and look at some standings around the league. Right, let's take a moment and look at some standings around the league. So flipping back over to my Madden, let's scroll down. All right. Having some technical difficulties here. Oh, my Madden disappeared on us. That's not good. Not good. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. So taking a look at my Madden, in the AFC, right? In the AFC, it looks like the Ravens are atop of the AFC North. However, they're atop of the AFC North. It looks like the Ravens have played one more game than the Bengals, so they both have one loss according to Neon Sports. Going into this, right? The Bengals are a team that I know a lot of people were high on, right? A lot of people were high on the Bengals going into this one. I'm curious as to who the Bengals lost to. The Bengals ended up taking a loss to Beeman, and then they also have a tie. The Neon Sports like default record did not illustrate that to us. It just listed them as a one-loss team. and it looks like their tie was to El Peppinger, a guy that I am not familiar with. Um, from what I've heard, it sounds like El Peppinger is at least a decent player that knows what he's doing, right? Like it doesn't sound like he's got like it doesn't sound like people view him as a bum or anything. Um, so the Bengals have a loss to Beeman, and according to Neon Sports, a tie with the Cardinals. Um, Continuing to break down the AFC and the AFC South, it looks like Jacksonville has an early strong lead in the division. Um, that being Sundance. Not a surprise at all. Not a surprise at all. Sundance is a very skilled player, knows what he's doing. My concern with Sundance has always been longevity, right? Like he always like has like moments where he gets hot, competes at the very best. When Sundance is clicking, he is a force to be reckoned with. Um, in the AFC East, it looks like the Jets are in a tight race with the Dolphins. The Jets have a one game lead currently over the Dolphins. Um, Jets being represented by Jeff, someone that I am notorious for always ragging on. Um, I secretly, I secretly do like Jeff. We won't tell him though. Jeff has a win over the Bills. Uh, a win over Chino. A win over Jumper. A loss to Bread. A win over. I'm not sure who this owner is. Broncos Terob. So a win over Terob. Win over Terob. And then finally a win over Philly, who is Maine. So out of all of these guys, there's a couple of them I'm not too familiar with. I'm vaguely familiar with. Um, but looking at the skill of the guys that Jeff has beat, right? Looking at the skill of the guys that Jeff has beat, I just realized I didn't scroll down so you guys could see the record too. Apologies. But looking at the skill of the guys that Jeff has beat, like he's got an early impressive record, right? Like he's sitting at 5-1. That's an early impressive record. I don't see no like looking at this, I don't see no like legitimate quality win, right? Like I don't see a win over a top guy. He's got like the skill level in elite top to bottom, like it's high skill level. So a win over any guy in elite is a legitimate win, but like I don't see a statement win, right? Like none of these games to me look like statement wins, right? None of them look like statement wins. And like the highest skill player I think he played was Bread, and it was a close game, but he still lost. I think the verdict is still out on Jeff, right? Like I've always been like notoriously, like I've always notoriously ragged on Jeff. It looks like he's definitely shifting gears, trending up, but I want to see a statement win before I get on the bandwagon. And then shifting over to the Dolphins, they are one game down from Jeff. We saw the Dolphins in week one. In our week one commentary game, we saw South collide in the week one commentary game. I ended up picking him to win that game. Didn't come out on top. I was on record saying that South season is far from done, and I believe I picked South to win his division year one, and I think I'm sticking with that. No, I don't think I'm sticking with that. I know I'm sticking with that. It looks looking at this, a note to the league admins. It looks like the game stats for this game against the Giants here did not pull through. So if you guys go back and sync week 5 again in the companion app, right? Sync the game stats, like go back and sync that, and it will pull that through, right? So I'm assuming this game from South was either it apparently was a loss because he's got 2 losses on the year, and that's the one game that's not displayed, right? So if you guys go back and sync that, it will pull the stats through, pull the stats through. Um, looking at these games though, kind of like the same thing that I said about Jeff would ring true for South, right? Like he lost week 1, also lost week 5, which high high probability that may have been a sim. That was either a sim for South, or he was one of the last games that got played before advance. Because basically, what happens is that game didn't pull through. That means his game was like that week 5. The stats were never like there were games that did not get synced into the companion app. You guys advanced, and then you guys began syncing week 6, but never went back to sync week 5. So that tells me it was either sim or one of the very last games to get played. So high probability, like if a game does not pull through, there's a high probability it was probably a sim. Um, I'm still like I'm not moving on my pick of South kind of winning it all, right? Winning the not winning it all, but winning the division year 1. The last team that we have to look at in the AFC, we've got who look at this, look at this, look at this. Is this maybe the top division in the league right now? We got the Chiefs sitting at 5 wins. We got the Chargers sitting at 4, and we got the Ravens sitting at 4. Um, Skimming the NFC real quick, it looks like the NFC South and the AFC West right now are the two top divisions, right? So let's break this down real quick. We're not even going to pull up the Broncos because they're at 1-5. So Bread and his Chiefs are sitting at 5-1. Dez and his Chargers at 4-1. And then we got Estrada and his Raiders at 4-1. Hmm. Let's come back to this. Let's come back to this. Let's come back to this. We're going to come back to this division. We're going to look at the AFC West and the NFC South um, together in the end. So, NFC North, we've got the Packers 3 wins, the Bears 3 wins, the Vikings 2 wins, and the Lions 2 wins. So, across the board, tight division. Right, no one's like come out, no one's separated. Um, tight division right now. Like it could go any way. Who are the owners we have in here? Let's peek real quick. So we got Big Time with 2 wins. We've got Wood with 2 wins. We've got True Talent with 3 wins. And then we got Show Cold with 3 wins. Out of those guys, right, like I think Show is the one that will end up separating himself. I could definitely see this division, right? I could definitely see a wild card team emerging, right? They're like True Talent and Wood, right? Like I think Show will separate himself and win the division. True Talent and Wood, they can both go. They're very high skilled players. Um, I think it will be very hard for like multiple teams in this division to pull out a wild card with the competition in the NFC. Like we got the one division in the NFC that has a bunch of 5 and 4 win teams. So it would take a miracle for multiple teams in this division to get a wild card. Um, But if Wood or True Talent can emerge and string together a bunch of wins, I think they have a legitimate chance for a wild card. In the NFC South, that's the division we're going to come back to. And then the NFC East, we've got Dallas with 4 wins, Giants with 4 wins, Philly with 3 wins, Washington with 2 wins. Another powerful division here. Another powerful division. We've got Maine with 3 wins. I'm not real, like I already mentioned, I'm not real familiar with Maine. Britch, 4 wins, not familiar with Britch. And then we got Chino with 4 wins. We saw Chino collide with Jumper. What is my take on Chino after seeing him play a game? I'm not sold. I'm not sold at all. Like, let's look at some stats real quick. Let's look at some stats. So let's check out Dak Prescott here. Let's see what he's doing with Dak. Attributes, abilities, game log. Where are his stats at? Why can I not find his stats? Abilities, game logs. Okay, game logs. Yeah, I'm not sold at all. Like, look at this. Like, okay, so touchdowns on the year, he's got 2, 5, 7, 10 touchdowns, 6, 8, 10 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, right? Like, that's not going to get it done. That's not going to get it done. Not going to get it done at all. I'm not sold on Chino, and I would not be surprised if Chino finished the year struggling to hit 500. Like, good early lead here, good early lead here, but I would not be surprised to see him fail to hit 500 on the year, right? That might be harsh. I've only really seen one game and looked at stats, but would not be surprised to see him fail to hit 500, see him struggle to hit 500. I would not be surprised to see either the Giants or the Eagles emerge and take this division. I would not be surprised to see multiple teams in this division surge past Chino. NFC West, we've got the Seahawks, we got the Cardinals, we got San Fran, and we got the Rams. Early on here, and it's still early in the year, but it looks like Beeman and the Cardinals are emerging as the early favorites. We already kind of have already talked about El Peppinger a little bit, sitting at 4-2-1. Sitting at 4-2-1. I'm not too familiar with them. Let's look at a few things here. Um, I had an idea on how to set this up, and it did not work out too well. Next week we are going to set this up a little bit different, so I'm not improvising here. All right. So looking at El Peppinger, he's got a loss to Chino, which I'm not a fan of that. Tied the Bengals and a loss to Beeman. His wins are against Frank. That's a solid win. I consider Frank to be a solid win. He's got a win against the Giants. He's got a win against San Fran. Who is San Fran again? Let's look. Bossman. Okay, so a win that doesn't mean much. And then he doesn't. Okay, it looks like week 6. Another note to admins: go back and sync week 6 again. Does not look like this Rams game pulled through either. And I believe that one would have been a win. High probability that it was a sim. Of these games that I'm seeing, like the Frank win is a solid win. It's a respectable win. Let's look at some stats. So Kyler Murray is 110 out of 165, 66.67 completion percentage, 10 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. What's Murray doing on the ground? 187, average of 32 on the ground. How many touchdowns? 0 touchdowns. Big L. Peppinger is a question mark for me. I think I'd want to see him play made in before I went in hard on him, but I'm not too impressed. Beeman easily wins this division uncontested. All right, so the big question mark, the big topic of discussion: which division is the early favorite? Right? Which division is the early favorite? The AFC West or the NFC South? AFC West, we've got Bread, we got Dez, and we got Estrada all competing at a high level. NFC South, let's take a look at the guys we got here. AFC South, we got Debo, we got Kanyvan, and we got Google F. I have no idea who that is. Zero idea who that is. Let me refer to the owners list on the server because I do not have the faintest idea who that is. Where is the server? There it is. I don't have it pulled up on the production here. My apologies. Where is the... Okay, Elite Coaches. All right. That's a dumb name. All right, so Panthers is Alex. Like, why is your Neon Sports name Google F? Like, that's dumb. Alex, that's dumb. So, Bread, if we were, so let's just go top to bottom comparing these two divisions. So, we got Bread, Alex. Who do we think wins head to head, Bread or Alex? In a head to head game, who wins, Bread or Alex? That's a tough one. If I was forced to like bet my life savings in a game of Bread versus Alex, like my question is what Bread are we talking about, right? Like if it's the Bread, like if it's like an AFC or like if it say it's like the Super Bowl, right? Say these two guys meet in the Super Bowl, who am I taking to win it? Right? Like who am I taking to win this game? Like if it's the Bread that we've had like the last couple of years, like I think I'm gonna bet my life savings on Alex, right? But if it's like historical Bread, right? If it is like the Bread, if it is bread, and like if you know, like it's a no brainer. You go with Bread, and like Bread is currently sitting at 5-1, right? So Bread is currently sitting at 5-1, and I'm believing that this cycle is going to be the renaissance and revival of Bread. It is going to be the return of the true form of Bread. So like Bread's gonna go like I'm believing like this is a year where Bread goes ultra instinct again, you know. So like who do I have in this game, Bread or Alex? Like if they were to meet head to head in the Super Bowl, I'm gonna take Bread. I'm gonna put my life savings on Bread. Okay, like we're putting our life savings on Bread. So like which division is better, AFC West or NFC South? Like we got one mark for the AFC West, and then we've got Alex. Alex versus not Alex, but we've got Dez versus the Buccaneers. Dez versus Kanyvan. Who? That's a really hard one. My personal bias, right? Like if I was to make it like an instinctual call based on my personal bias, I'd probably go with Kanyuvan, but I don't know if that's like the right answer, right? Like if it's like if I'm like impulsively picking someone out of this game out of personal bias, it's probably going to be Kanyuvan. But if you tell me it's the Super Bowl and like I have to bet my life savings, I'm gonna take a step back and I'm really gonna think about it. I think I'd ultimately like if it's a Super Bowl and I'm forced to bet my life savings on it. I think I would probably be leaning like I would probably lean towards Dez. I would probably lean towards Dez. It would not be an easy decision. It would not be an easy decision. It is a decision that I would be second guessing the entire time. And like I'm like I'd probably be leaning like 55% Dez, 45% Kanyuvan, right? So like it'd be very close, very close. And then we've got so that would be another mark for the AF or that would be a mark for yeah, that would be a mark for the AFC West, right? Because we're taking Dez over Kanyuvan. And then we've got Estrada versus Cool Under Fire. Estrada versus Debo. I'm going Debo. I'm going Debo. Personal bias, I don't really think I have a personal bias in that because like both of these guys, I consider both of these guys to be homies, you know. Like I'm a big fan of Debo. I'm a big fan of Estrada. I think when these two guys are competing at their best, I think Estrada like is the better player, right? Like I think if they're both at their best, fully involved, like fully committed, I think Estrada goes over on Debo. However, I think that Estrada is also like very easily distracted. I think it's hard to get the most out of Estrada. Like I don't know like what he's doing this year, like where he's at this cycle, but I feel like historically he's a guy that's always in like 100 leagues, you know, and like he divides his attention shifts up, and like it's hard. I feel like it's hard for Estrada to like really go all in on something, you know, and be like 110% dedicated to the league. So I think ultimately like Debo would want it more, and I think Debo would end up getting the win. So if it's the Super Bowl and I'm forced to bet my life savings, I'm putting my money on the NFC South. Um, and then just like for giggles, right? I don't even think we looked at who the Broncos and the Falcons were. So Broncos or for the AFC, we've got Terab. And on the NFC, we've got Tav. I'm not familiar with that name. Is there maybe a different Discord name? What is this guy's Discord name? Yeah, it's just Tab. Um, is this maybe a guy I know but has changed his name? No, we have no messaging history. So I have no idea who this guy is. I have no idea who Tav is. Um, Rob though, his name is Rob because he's terrible. Let's look at looking at my Madden. Let's look at this guy's. Let's see who Tav has played. Okay, he's got a loss to the Cardinals, or not Cardinals, but Carolina. Lost to the Packers. Win over Big Time. Trash win. Lost to Jacksonville. Who's Jacksonville again? So a loss to Sundance. A loss to Frank. So I mean, He's had a very Tav has had a very difficult schedule. Very difficult schedule. He's lost to a lot of high skilled players. Um, his two wins are against Big Time, which is big trash, big time, big trash. And then his other win is against Jimbo. Oh my lord! So looking at Tav when he's played high quality guys, he's lost, and his only wins are against basically like free wins, you know. Um, so let's take a look at Terob. Let's see how Terob has done this season so far. Oh, oh, look at that! Look at that! Terob has lost to Estrada. He's lost to South. Is was Chicago? Was that true talent? Why is this not loading? It's not loading. Okay, yeah, that's true talent. That's true talent. He lost to true talent. Who was the Jets? I should know who the Jets are. We've talked. Okay, he lost to Jeff. And then, yo, Jeff, I just said I should know who the Jets are, right? So maybe like my subconscious is saying, Brad, Jeff is actually okay at Madden, right? And then he lost to Brad. So Terror Rob has lost like all of Terror Rob's losses, with the exception of Jeff, which we're going to say that the loss to Jeff is a question mark, right? All of the losses, with the exception of Jeff, have been to high skilled players, and we're putting a question mark on Jeff because the verdict's out. The verdict's out on him. I'm not sure if he is trash or maybe he's good. The verdict's still out on him. But his one win, right? Like the win of Terror Rob was against Frank. So I mean, historically, I would say that's a high skilled win. So that would be another win. So we're gonna go Terror Rob over Tav, right? We're gonna go Terror Rob over Tav. So that will make like the our AFC top division with three to one over the NFC top division. However, I feel like kind of walking through things with you guys, right? Walking through things with you guys. Like I've like said multiple times, like I count a win over Frank as like a meaningful win. Yet, like we've said that multiple times, right? And we're only like what, like a fraction through like the first season, and like there are a bunch of bums losing or a bunch of bums pulling out wins over Frank. Oh my gosh! Oh my Frank, what are you doing? Frank is 2-5. Is Frank tanking? Is Frank tanking? Cardinals, is that was that El Peppinger? Yeah. So Frank lost to El Peppinger, lost to Terrob, lost to Buffalo, lost to Philly, lost to True Talent. So there's a couple guys in here that are question marks for me, and the ones that I know, right, like Terrob, I like that. That's a win that Frank should have won. That's a game that Frank should have won. Buffalo, that's a game that I think Frank should have won. And then his two wins are against Atlanta and the Giants. So Atlanta was Tav. We don't we don't really know anything about Tav, and then Britch. Not a single one of Frank's wins have any meaning so far as far as I'm concerned, and he's lost games that he should have won. Did Let me ask you guys this: are we seeing like maybe bread has been like cursed, right? Like bread's been hexed these last few years, and like he's finally beginning to rise. Like he's finding that renaissance, that revival, and the true form to the true bread. Like bread's going ultra instinct right now, and while bread is rising from the hex that has been against him over the last few years, has that like hex by proxy, like has it like shifted from bread over to Frank? Like, are we about to see like just like the complete demise and like the falter and like ruin of Frank? Is Frank done? Are we looking at just like are we looking? I believe this is what's going on. I believe we are looking at the renaissance and revival of bread, while the complete falter of Frank. Anyways, guys, thank you for hanging out with me. And I will see you guys on Tuesday as we dive into the next Tuesday night commentary stream. And until then, peace.